Are you ready to live out your higher vision in 2025? Well, let me talk about what that higher vision means versus typical goals, and also three of the elements that can really enhance your ability to experience it, including manifestation, action, real life action, and inner work, and how those come together to allow you to exceed the level that you would operate at if you weren't aware of how to use those three elements. Okay, so first of all, the higher vision. A higher vision I refer to because it's more of a calling. It's something that a person can feel like they were meant to do, or they were inspired to do. I've always said that we each come into this earth with certain seeds planted within us that really define who we are compared to anybody else on this planet. And that can include our talents, our desires, our inclinations, our personality. It can include those dreams that nobody else around us seems to have, but for some reason it's like, again, they were planted within us, and we feel being drawn to live them out. And most of the world, by the way, does not operate like that, right? Most people very much end up in their conditioning. This is the way it works. This is what other people around me do. This is what my parents told me to do. This is what my friends do. This is what I see on TV. And they go and live that out. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because there can be many rewards that we experience, and the world is actually set up to reward that kind of behavior to a certain extent. But what it doesn't do is really allow you to tap into and get to know, who is this person that I came to be, and what am I here to do? Because when we are in touch with that, there is so much more energy and a sense of connection and a sense of meaning and purpose that we can derive that we typically don't when we're following rules and approaches that are just, as I said, often programmed into us, right, by everyone around us. And so a higher calling is both kind of that mixture of those seeds that were planted in us, but also like these ideas and these times when this energy drops in and it wants to activate these seeds and bring them into fruition. I talk mostly about people who have businesses or some kind of creative project or a venture. They're not just looking for that traditional 9 to 5 and achieving the goals approach. And a higher vision therefore also will operate on often very different kinds of rules and ways of being and acting, and will require a certain level of courage, bravery, and inspiration and creativity and resourcefulness, right? It's going to require a lot of us to really come out of our shell, and that's the only way we're actually going to know what our true self is, right? When we just create that kind of safe environment where everything's predictable and known, yes, it provides a certain sense of safety in the moment, but often we have no reason to tap into more of who we really are. But when we are pursuing our higher calling, it's like we can't help it. We are required to come out of our shell. We are required to often learn new skills. We are required to do the inner work and create in a way that's going to be both fulfilling and joyful, right? So it's not just to get somewhere, right? It's, yes, the destination is important, but the journey is important. We want to be able to look back at our lives and say, wow, I really went for it. I went and I tried all these things. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work, but wow, was that ever a trip, right? And you may be at a certain range, certain place in that range of very adventurous to, I want to try all these things, but I also have these particular desires and goals in mind that I also would like to experience in this world. And so that's fine. That's going to be personal, right? Your how risk averse you are. But there are things that are in common because we're still talking about that higher vision and where you are going to go with it. Now, being in action is so important. And I'm saying that primarily to those who may focus much more on the inner work or focus much more on the manifestation, where they can sometimes drop the ball when it comes to really following through with action, because a higher calling is going to require us to be in motion often to show us what the next step is. And without that, we can be sitting forever, like hoping for that, inspiration to fall into our lap, that perfect, multi-million dollar idea. But if we're not taking action and we're not engaging in the world, guess what? The likelihood of that happening, or the likelihood of that happening and us actually being able to follow through and sustain it, is going to be low. But when we operate with all three things, we take the actions in the outer world, right? Be in the momentum. This is where a lot of the energy builds, right? We use manifestation as a way to also realize that we're not in control of everything, but we can manifest and create by placing our attention and our energy in a more directed way at times. And I find that's much more easy when I do it personally, like on my bigger vision, rather than just on this particular goal, which may have a lot of pressure attached to it. And I might end up kind of seizing up my actual manifestation ability by creating this tension of like this kind of force, like I want this goal to happen now. Because a higher vision, guess what? It operates also at a different level that is beyond the thinking mind, right? It knows, it's like the higher universal order. It knows that, hey, you know what? This thing has to happen before you're going to get that thing. But if you keep forcing yourself trying to get there and you're missing this piece, you may not get there, and you actually may end up creating quite a delay, right? So you want to use a manifestation where we are sometimes surprised by the path, the route that something that we arrive at what we actually want. And then there is inner work, and this, in my opinion, is a kind of a natural part of following your higher vision, because a higher vision is going to challenge you to come out of any shell that you're in, any sense of, I want to remain safe and hidden, and it's going to require you to come out in some way. And that's going to be different for everyone. I'm not talking about you all have to be on video, for example, but it's going to require you to come out of the habits and attitudes and the ways you're used to being, because it is a higher calling, right? It's going to, it's things that sometimes often haven't been done by the people around you, right? So you are often innovating when you're doing following a higher calling. And some of that innovation may not be that you're not like creating something totally new, but you are doing it in your own way. And that is the place where that inner work is going to be required, because often if we are the only person in our world, in our immediate circle, that's doing anything really out of the box or really different, what's going to happen is that other people around us will tell us like kind of old advice, things that don't actually apply to a higher calling and pursuing that. And so doing inner work is allowing us to release some of those limits that we are often conditioned to believing and accepting and taking on. And it's very easy to do. So that's why that piece is pretty essential, so that you are growing and expanding. Because I think any soul that is here for a higher calling naturally desires expansion, naturally desires to grow out of the ways that they already know. And certainly entrepreneurs are a group that, wants something different, and they're willing to take a certain risk in order to create that for themselves. Their dreams may be much higher. They may be much more unique in terms of the way, that my lifestyle was always, for example, something that was really important to me, and I wasn't willing to compromise that for kind of the outer successes if I was going to have to give that up. Because for me, it was a matter of kind of health and well-being and happiness. And like I knew that I wasn't on this earth to just, tick all the little boxes, but to be creative, to be innovative, to create a life that was kind of designed for me. And so this is a particular path, and it's certainly not something that the majority go along on. Some people have snippets of it, and I think today there's way more information out there that encourages people to be who they really are, and to do something different, and to come out of any old box. But most people just don't know what that means and how to go about doing that. So one of the things that I want to really emphasize today is the word action. Being in action or being in motion. Actually, that's another one I really like, because there's something about being in motion that invites in new information. It's the steps that we take that tell us, oh, is this working? Is this not working? Is this like supporting the direction that I'm going in, that my higher vision is somehow actually now unfolding around me because I am taking the steps. I am doing the work. That is part of it. And when you're doing the work, and as I said, there's something new about it, for example, in business, you're the one who's deciding, you're making the decisions. So you're not just following somebody else's orders, right? So learning to understand, where is my intuition taking me? Is my instinct saying yes or no to this? And then getting a response, receiving feedback from the outer world as we progress, right? So when we don't take action, we're relying on manifestation, we're doing a lot of inner work. Guess what? Things just are going to go slowly, and you're not going to get that feedback from the world about, where you need to go next. So taking actions regularly is so important to keep yourself energized and passionate about it. And this is where you're going to be doing things that are probably going to be outside your comfort zone as well at times, and ensuring that at least a part of your week is dedicated to those steps. Yes, there's a lot of practical admin and all the other stuff that is more regular. We don't have to think about it, which is wonderful, gives us a little bit of a break. But that stepping out of our comfort zone and doing different things, is it making sales calls? Is it talking to a group? Is it writing new content? Is it showing up on video? Like, what is it? Developing new relationships with people. What is it that feels uncomfortable, or maybe it takes more effort for you for some reason, but it's a vital part of what you have to do? That kind of action is what's going to actually give you the most important information a lot of the time, right? Because it's a daily thing. Now, what about manifestation? Manifestation, to me, we're always manifesting, by the way. And the question is, are you doing it consciously or not? Because when we do it consciously, that's when we have the opportunity to create far more than we have before. Now, manifestation, the way I like to think about it is, it's kind of like, what? I'm doing my part by taking action in the world, but then there's a whole universe here where, so many other things can happen. Opportunities can fall in my lap. New ideas can show up. New people can show up. And I don't know how some of that kind of magic is going to happen, and I don't have to control it all in order to know either. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some manifestation approaches to ensure that I'm also kind of connecting with that energy that is beyond me, that has more awareness of everything that's going on, and can bring things in perfect timing to me. It can fulfill a certain goal without me having to work for it directly. It can provide a kind of support in places that I need it, but when I didn't know how to get that, right? So it's kind of like, this union of us taking action, and then the universe also presents us with experiences as well. And so you can call it manifestation. Some people call it creation, conscious creation. That's another way. And there's some subtleties in the difference between the two, but I won't go into that here. I'm using them somewhat in a similar manner right now. But just the idea of, I have a thought, I have a desire, and then it certainly it happens out in my world without me actually having taken the steps. And in my previous videos, I've definitely given examples where I have created wonderful things for myself when I had no idea how I could, or I didn't think I had the means for it. I didn't think I had any particular avenue or connection to create that result, but I did. And so that's what really conscious creation is about. And when we exercise both, what happens is we feel the joy of our daily life and being in action, but we also have this ability to kind of relax, sit back a bit, not have to, as I said, be in control. Because when we are in control, we're often micromanaging and we're thinking that, step A has to happen before B and C and D. Like it's just, we get into our heads and then we try sometimes to control others or just try to control the situation. Basically spending a lot of energy spinning wheels that don't end up creating results at the speed that would be possible for us, right? I actually got an email today in that regard. It was something that I was working towards last year, and it was literally an idea that somebody gave me. I hadn't thought about it, but somebody gave me that idea, and I took some action in that regard. And the first response was a no, not now. And so I let it be, and then something else kind of, worked on some more, and then I thought, okay, I think I'm ready now. And then yet it still wasn't ready. And now I just got an email today that's saying, hey, I think everything's going to be in order. This can be a go. And so anyways, I won't go into details because that has to yet happen for me to, have it all confirmed. But things don't always happen in the timing that we want. Now, I didn't have a direct need for that opportunity last year. It was simply an idea that somebody had gave me. But now, fast forward a year later, it's like, wow, my goodness, that would put me in a very different position, a much better position by having this experience, by having this opportunity. And so let it come together. I was able to let go. Yes, I had frustration at times because I did went into this place of I want to kind of push it into being, right? I want it now, right? And some of it was just, I think, ego, just a desire. But at the same time, when it doesn't work, you have to sometimes wake up and go, okay, wait a second, there's more to this. And if I don't need this right now, maybe that's why. Maybe my attention and energy is required elsewhere that is actually far more essential and important. And so manifestation, as I said, it can kind of both fill in the gaps, but it can also create brand new opportunities and experiences because we actually open to an energy beyond our knowing, beyond our thinking mind. And it's like we're plugging into a power that's way more smart and intelligent than we are, right? And then the inner work piece. So inner work, a lot of this, you may have heard words like, limiting beliefs, having resistance to something, having blocks towards something, having money beliefs that are, limiting in some fashion. So all of this is kind of a lot about the conditioning. And there may be some other factors where we stop ourselves from listening to that higher calling, right? Like, given the work that I do with people, I see this all the time, sometimes just through conversations with somebody, in a natural environment, and then sometimes with people I'm actually working with. And because I'm, tuned to hear where a person is at, it's really easy for me to catch how quickly people often undo their own vision. Like they'll start by saying, hey, I don't really know what I want. And then somewhere along in the conversation, when they're not really paying attention, they may actually speak it to me, and I'll go, wow. And I'll go, oh, why don't you do that? And then it'll be, oh, no, I can't do that because A, B, and C. And so without even exploring that little moment where something showed up, they shut it down. Right? So this is very common and often it's done unconsciously. And so inner work allows us to bring things to the surface so we can see where some of those limits are. Why am I having resistance? So I said this is my higher vision. I've taken some steps. Maybe things didn't all happen at once. But now suddenly, like, something in me is stopping me from taking the bigger step that I know is waiting for me, right? That kind of feeling like I'm going to pull myself back from it. And so that's where inner work comes in. And Some of it you might, through books and videos you can do on your own, but very often it helps to be working with somebody because they'll be able to catch these things. Just as I said, I can, in a conversation, especially when my intention is there and I'm working with somebody, catch the things that they're saying that they're then shutting down right away. And we can explore that and see what it is. And often it's something really simple. And when they just clear that thought or that kind of old approach to it, or realize, somebody else said that to me, it wasn't mine, it wasn't my thought, then, very often they can jump forward, and they will jump forward in ways that they didn't even know that was available to them, 5 minutes earlier. So manifestation, taking action regularly, and then inner work, all of those kind of join together to allow us to live into our higher vision. And there are some places that we all naturally just succeed, right? Maybe it's in your area of health. Maybe it is in your finances and wealth. Maybe it is in your business. Maybe it's in your relationships, right? Maybe it's in your creative output. Wherever you naturally are talented or kind of drawn, you're going to do that often without very much thought. It's almost like it's a given, just the same as like, I wake up and I have breakfast every day, right? We just do certain things because we've already somehow committed to them. We've made that decision. They're important to us. Whereas other things, other areas can create a lot of, they bring forth the experience of having resistance to them. I don't feel like it today. I don't want to. I don't know what to do next. No, I don't want to do that. I'm not ready for that level yet. And or things just don't work that way, right? I mean, how many times have I had a client tell me that's impossible? No, I cannot sign up, 7 clients all at once. That would just take a lot for me to do that in their line of work. And then, a month and a half passes and suddenly they have 7 new clients and they almost forgot what they said before, right? So I've watched people go through this so many times where their mind has said no in a particular area, which is why they've been stuck for so long. And it's by working together that, again, that can be spotted and released. And then action can be taken that actually supports it, and also an approach to manifestation so that you're bringing in, as I said, all 3 to make that higher vision a reality and kind of let it unfold for you instead of having to control it all. Now, when I work with somebody, that's one of the benefits, is that they're like, I'm standing as a mirror in that sense, holding their higher vision and reflecting it back to them. And I am able to stay true in that because I'm not them. I don't have any resistance to it, right? It's not my goal. So I'm not going to have those kind of barriers in my mind or in my energy field for them. I will be there to support them. And so somebody who comes into that kind of space, it's like they're in a different vibration where they're receiving support, and then they're getting mirrored back to them what is their higher vision and the places where they're really in alignment with it and acting on it. And they're also being shown the places they may not be acting according to what they actually know, what their instinct is saying yes to, right? And so that allows them a lot of power that they wouldn't have otherwise. Because I don't know about you, but I really haven't had a lot of people in my natural world from a young age who were just like, yes, this is you, we're going to support you in this, and this is your willingness to kind of go out of the norm. We're going to definitely be behind you, and this is how you do it. Because they weren't doing that. Now, they were doing other things, and certainly if they were successful in that, I may definitely receive guidance and advice for that. But in the places that I was charting a brand new path, they weren't the people. I needed somebody who could hear me and not go into that naysaying of, oh no, that's not possible, your goals are way too big. Why are you trying to like aim for that goal? Why don't you try something small that you can do? Those small actions will eventually catch up. Well, yeah, but they can also keep you operating at a really, really slow pace, right? So being able to hold that space for people, where I just, this is what I do. This is one of my gifts. I naturally align and see people's higher visions, and I see them operating in it, and that's why it's easy to kind of guide and say, okay, keep going in that direction, and no, you can stop doing that. This isn't necessary, and they begin moving and then developing their own ability, that confidence, right? They really begin hearing themselves. They begin trusting their intuition. So it's not that I'm just always telling them new information, but it's that they're finally hearing this information, which they might have had heard, in their own self, or when they were out there trying to do their thing, but for whatever reason they didn't have the power and the strength to follow up on it. And so as we work together, they are more certain about following that path and making sure that they stay on track. And even the places where it feels like they're in the unknown or feels foggy, I can guide them to tap back into that higher vision so that the next step can show up, and so that maybe even just taking the next action is going to reveal some of that feedback information they need in order to decide the second step and the third step, right? So all of this is helping, or is having a person get to know and live by their true self instead of by the conditioned self. And we stop putting focus in these experiences on our perceived problems, and we shift our state to the one that's connected to the higher vision, and then we are able to follow through. We just naturally take on new behaviors and attitudes. It's like, when that commitment is made, then your body just follows it and follows through by taking action. It doesn't have to be convinced and motivated and given little rewards in order to do it. It actually gets lit up, and then solutions are more naturally found, right? So it is a process, it's a journey, it's never ending. But what I'm trying to say here is that when we have more fun with it and we engage these different elements, we are already living our higher vision, right? It doesn't mean that we have to have everything given to us again on that silver platter, because that probably wouldn't be as fun as much as our minds usually want it to happen that way, right? A higher calling often includes the joy of the journey, right? Because we become someone else. We become this higher version of ourselves, right? From the limits that we maybe took on early in our life, or the limits that other people might have placed on ourselves. And so operating on your higher calling, tuning in daily, relaxing you're going to relax in your manifestation by taking action regularly, engaging in the world, doing what you're here to do, taking each step. And then when you know you're in that motion yourself and you're doing the work, guess what? You can lay back for half an hour, say, you know what, I'm just going to dream a little bit. I'm going to activate my manifestation muscles here, and send some signals out that are going to draw back to me, what maybe an opportunity that really fits me right now that I didn't even know existed. And then we're going to come to those places where we are challenged, and we're going to do some inner work so that we can clear away whatever's hindering our progress, our experiences, the successes we want. And most of all, again, we can look back on a life and say, not everything worked out, but boy, did I get to have some experiences, and look at some of the things that have worked out, that I've been able to create, that, no one said I could, and I did. And it was an adventure, right? So I hope this has been either inspiring or has given you some ideas or reminded you of kind of the dance between the different aspects so that you're not just so like, oh my God, I have to fix myself before I'll ever succeed and doing all this inner work, or I'm going to sit here, I'm going to manifest all day and not going to even touch anything, or I'm going to hustle, hustle, hustle and burn myself out in the process. Like anything taken to an extreme is often going to come back on us, right? So instead, weaving between those kind of elements can give you that energy to keep going, keep succeeding, keep creating, keep experimenting, and discover more of your true self and live into your higher vision.